welcome back to Roompact's ResEdChat podcast, a platform to showcase people doing great things and talking about cool stuff in college student housing and residence life. I am your host, Crystal Lay, and I use the she, her series pronouns. We are going to talk about fun today. Fun in the workplace. Yes, I put it in one sentence. It is possible to have fun where you work. And even more so, it's important to have fun when you do the work that we do in residence life. It can be hard, it can be tricky, it can be heavy. And so our guest today is someone I consider to be an expert on fun, whether it be bringing in different activities or just the joy that they exude when you get to share space with them. I am very thrilled that he said yes to talking to us today about how we can make our work more fun when we work in residence life and housing. And so with that, I will have our guests introduce themselves. I can't hear you.
Okay. What about now?
Okay, perfect. Yep.
Cool. All right. So I appreciate the introduction that you gave me. But my name is DeVante Parker. I use the he series pronouns. I'm currently a resident director at UC Berkeley, but I come to Berkeley from the most magical place on earth, 2,917 miles away from where I currently stand at in Hampton, Virginia. I did my grad program at NAU, took the really traditional route of 3 years of being an RA, and then decided that that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So then I got a master's in student affairs, and now I'm here. Yeah, and I love it. And I
uh,
appreciate being here today.
yes, well, thank you so much. And just the energy in your voice, I'm like, this is going to be exciting. Like, we're going to talk about fun and we're going to have fun. I can't wait. Okay, so let's get to our first question. So I think fun can feel like more of a luxury or an add-on when the work is heavy. And so when you hear this idea of having fun, like, what does that actually look like for you, DeVante, in residence life? And then why do you think it's essential and not optional?
So I think fun for me at work, it looks like a couple of different things. For one, I feel like I'm a creative person, so I love to be able to creatively infuse my passions, my outside passions, into work, for me to enjoy and for other people to enjoy as well. I also just love my job, so like having fun is interacting with students, finding creative ways. We have Gen Z students coming in. I'm also a Gen Zer myself, so like finding creative ways to interact with students and engage with students, such as like social media and our welcome events in the hallways, and having to think outside of the box with this pervasive thing that we have called the internet, just like making the way that we interact with people in such like different, like it's different than it used to be. So finding creative ways to do that. So I think what fun looks like for me specifically is like when I'm able to infuse my why of like why I'm here with my passions, and I'm able to like do that and have other people laugh and engage and outwardly have fun themselves, it makes it even better for me. That's really fun for me, and you're gonna hear that word a lot in this. But I think it's essential because it's going to the second part of that question. I think it's essential because as everybody in res life knows, our job has a tendency to be very tough. It's heavy, so obviously like the timing is very important in these things, but when you have lighthearted moments in between and like you could see the passion from above or like from your coworkers or things like that, I feel like it can really drive people to stay because it also causes people to remember what brought us here in the first place. What made it that we wanted to be in student affairs. Was it when we had fun with programming? Was it, those things? I feel like it's usually aha moment was when you were having fun as a student, like a student affairs, like a part timer or like as a student worker. So that's why I think it's essential because it helps us remember our why, especially in those tough times when we go through, God forbid, we go through those moments where it gets really tough.
I'm glad that you mentioned the generational thing too. I'm an ex-millennial, dangerously close to being a millennial, right? But sometimes like my idea of fun might be different. And so I'm always excited to learn from folks from different generations. Like I went to a conference and someone said, when you put a period in a text message, like that means you're angry. I was like, I'm just trying to be polite. And so I try to lean into like, what can I learn? And how do I ask more questions about, what would be fun to someone? And so not to box people in, but I thought that was pretty cool when you mentioned the generational piece. So can you share a specific moment when you or your team turned a stressful situation into something fun or joyful?
Yeah, we're gonna have to throw it back here for back to my RA days. So this was my third year as an RA, and it was a welcome event that we had. And if anyone's familiar with NAU, the Tinsley Hall, we had our mascot is Tina the T Rex, so we had Tina's T Rex turn up, as an alliteration. It was really fun. And what we had as an idea was that we were gonna have a party of like a bunch of activities and fishing for things like that. And we were fishing for ideas for it. And my idea was that we did karaoke, right? Because I've done it in the past, and it's one of my favorite things to do as a program, and a lot of people enjoy it usually. But other people in my team weren't as enthusiastic about it. But I pushed for it because like I've had a lot of success with it in the past. But I could tell as we were getting closer to that it was more so of an afterthought. And like on the day of, I was told that it was going to be away from the other activities that were on the ground floor, and it was going to be on the second floor in the TV room of the building, which had no windows. So it was going to be hot, and like it was away from everything. And I was really stressed out because like I cared about this event and I cared about that part of it. And I thought it would be difficult to get students to really engage in it, especially while I was going to be away from everyone. So I started to think like, how could I like make this fun for me, but also bring people in at the same time? And I did it the best way I knew how at that point, which was by singing karaoke myself very loudly, not obnoxiously loudly though. But it was I like did Milkshake by Kellis and then things like that. And I thought that hearing the people hearing that like really drew them in, like, huh, like okay, maybe there's a lot of people here, but it was really just me. But that caused people to stay. And once I noticed that there was a lot of people, my go-to karaoke song is Bohemian Rhapsody. I love Bohemian Rhapsody because it gets the crowd involved. Most people know it. You can sing it along. The words are on the screen anyway. So I told them to sing it along, and like that really made the moment like so much better because then people were like, okay, I'm ready to be up there and sing. I'm ready to do this. So it was really fun, and it turned that stressful time into a fun time, and it turned out to be one of the most important fun times that I've had as an RA. And it showed me that if you can show your passion and like the other people can tell that you're having fun in that space, it creates a space where other people like fun is allowed and other people can experience fun in the ways that they want to, and it almost encourages other people to be passionate and be comfortable with being passionate. As a Gen Zer, I can tell you that sometimes showing passion is not cool in quotation marks. You got to be nonchalant, but when that's like it's shown, like it helps out a lot. And I get this principle from, I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling. If you don't know me, I love professional wrestling. And I like WWE or AEW. And there's principles from it that I bring into my work. And I promise it's not chair swinging. But it's really cool because even though people know that professional wrestling is predetermined, right? It's still one of those things where you have to believe in what you're doing in order for people to believe in it as well that are watching. And I truly believe that that transcends like things in general. Because if you don't believe in a program that you're doing, it's going to fail. Because why would I go to a program that you're putting on and you're just doing it halfway? And I think it's the same with anything that you put into any work that you put in with student affairs. And if you're having fun, it really shows the other people that like, okay, I can have fun with this too, and I can tell that they enjoy it, so I'm gonna give it a shot. And I really think that that showed in that manner, like even when we were stressed out, like that really helped bring people in, and that was the most attended part of the a part of the welcome event, so that was really cool.
And I also heard in there being flexible, right? Being able to pivot, and put yourself out there too, right? You're like, okay, if I want people to try this, I want to try it myself, right? And then you also selected, like you said, a song that would bring folks in. So it's also inviting people in to have fun. I think I pulled that out of what you said too. So thank you. So Money. Let's talk money. When you're putting on an event or you're trying to do something fun or social in a workplace, I see dollar signs. So I want to talk to you about like what are some practical low cost or no cost strategies that you've used to infuse fun into like, let's say a staff meeting or an on-call week or just day-to-day operations.
Yeah, so I think with staff meetings for sure, I love to have no cost traditions. I love to do passion projects. That's a student affairs fave. We also have these things called Kahoot battles that I have where we'll find a random Kahoot. We'll have, since I have a staff of 10, I don't have to pay for the premium version. We can use the free one, and that really works out. But we have them do a Kahoot battle on random topics, or maybe if I create one, then we have them in teams. I did one on March Madness once. It was really cool. And I love team builders that are outside of the box, or I try to make them outside of the box. Like we did a Jeopardy game a couple years ago that had topics like fun facts about the school that I was at the time, but also like about the me and my supervisor, and then also like the team themselves, the student staff members, and it was a hit. I really love that one. I think about it to this day. On the day-to-day level, I love encouraging fun on ones. I mean, it's in the name, right? Like it's fun on one. You get to do things that outside of the office. And it's a really fun time. Like one time I remember it was literally the whole one-on-one. We still got work done, but we were kicking a soccer ball the entire time. And like I love soccer and he loves soccer, so it was a really fun time. And then I always have music playing. I find that music is a great connector of people, like especially across generations, because you grow up listening to music that your mom plays, and then you play it, and then other people are like, "Oh, my mom played that too," and it's really fun. And I also try to build a rapport with students and staff when I have the capacity. Like if I see them in the hallways, I'll try and like joke with them, work appropriately, of course, and then make sure that they're like, if we talked about something beforehand, like follow up with them on that, and it's really fun. On a peer-to-peer level, I feel like in the places that I've worked at, I am very famous for my presentations because I love them being like very extra and very like interactive. I love bringing my passions into it, as well as like other people's passions into the workplace. Like I mentioned that I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling. I love when I have a presentation that I do a wrestling style introduction into my presentation about whatever I'm doing, like me, if it's about me, then me, or like whatever I'm doing with the presentation. I'll come out with the theme music playing and the belt, I'm coming in, and it's really fun. And I think people love that too because they love cheering and like cheering and like playing along, and it's really cool. Another example of this is we had the student affairs panel that I was moderating, and it was a student affairs panel for our student staff. And I was thinking like of ways to keep people interactive because it was during our staff meeting time, which is 7 to 9, and we all know like 7 to 9, that's Mimi times. Like we're ready to go to bed, we're sleepy. So I was thinking like, what are some ways that I could like bring this out and like set the tone? And I love basketball. So Michael Jordan's one of my favorite players. Love the Chicago Bulls from the 90s. And one of the best parts of the stuff before the game is when he comes out. It's like, from North Carolina at guard 6'6", Michael Jordan. I was like, what if we did that for the panelists? Because like some of these people were from all over the Division of Student Affairs, so not everyone in the student staff knew them. So I was like, okay, we'll have Final Countdown playing. We'll put their picture on the big screen, and then I'll like be like, from University of San Francisco, Dr. T, Tanya, like, and it was really fun. Everyone had a blast, and I think that was one of our more popular in-service trainings that we did during the year, just because of like that it was fun. And they also, even though like a lot of people weren't going into student affairs because at Berkeley that's not as much of a thing, they still enjoyed it and learned a lot about people's journeys getting into it. And I also think it goes to a point where I was telling about earlier of like how that sort of enthusiasm can trickle down. I think the inverse is true too. Like the burnout can trickle down as well. It makes me like I think it's good to know that because like when choosing these things, like you shouldn't have like when choosing these things and doing this, like having fun shouldn't contribute to the burnout. And I think it's like when it's related to stuff that you're passionate about, it helps out a lot. But I also think it's important to stress like having the capacity to talk about like to pick these things so that you're not half doing it. And then when you are up there or you're doing something, it's not like, okay, I could tell that either they're burnt out or they're not really enjoying this, so I'm not enjoying this.
Yes, I love everything you just shared. And you talked about multiple levels and positions of staff, right? You're talking about, like, we have folks from across student affairs come in, right? And you talked about time and place. You're like, it's 7 o'clock at night. And most of these folks who are coming in might be coming from home. So how do I get them hyped up? And then the participants may not know them. So how do I get them hyped up? And so it sounds like it's really being aware of the time and place and the context, right? To deliver the best experience possible for folks. And I really appreciate that. And you also talked about the trickle down. I absolutely love learning what the theme is for training. And I'm sure there's photos of me dressed up as like a s'more or like Barbie, right? To just be present, to say, I'm in this with you. And so I really love how you talk about, again, awareness of presence. And then fun should feel like fun. It shouldn't be, like you said, so intense where it's stressing you out to plan the fun. So thank you for that. Those are some really cool ideas. I'm like, oh, I'm taking notes on what I want to try. So now we keep saying fun, and we also keep saying this heaviness, right? And stress. I want to talk about balance or this integration idea, right? So how do you balance creating a culture of fun while also maintaining structure, standards, and accountability on teams or your team? I lost you again.
Okay, sorry
Yep,
about that. Can you hear
perfect.
me
Okay.
now? Cool.
Yep.
I I put a lot of work really early into the year. I feel like it's really important to do that. Just due to the fact that, I think even without integrating a culture of fun, right? A culture of creativity, I think that accountability and expectations are like just an essential part of a good work culture. Making sure that people are getting on their deadlines and stuff on time, and making sure that there's expectations placed that is very clear. And one of my expectations is that, I want you to be creative in the ways that you do things, just like how I am. Not exactly the same, obviously, because creativity looks different for different people.
Mm.
But I also like in order to do this, you have to get the things that you need to get done. So like you have to get your conversations done. How you do that, that's up to you. But like make sure that that's good. And I think like when we talk about that, like putting that at the beginning of the year, it's really good to me. And I feel like just putting that in clear terms at the beginning of the year and making sure that like that's a part of the work culture, like accountability, expectations, and fun. I feel like that really helps create a healthy work culture, and that's like what I strive to do when implementing all of these things.
So I feel like you're saying there's a little bit of this idea like that work hard, play hard, right? If we get our work done, right, and we're holding each other accountable, like maybe I would want to have more fun, right? Because we're all holding each other accountable, and we're also being really clear with our expectations. Because getting
Well,
your work done, you can celebrate that too, right? That's a celebratory piece that can also lead to fun, maybe.
yeah, I think it's kind of those things where like I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Like I feel
Right.
like you can hold people accountable while still having fun. And I try to create my work cult in my work culture as like a supervisor, like you could do these things and like you can do it in a fun way. Like you can get your
Mhm.
conversations done in a fun way. If you want to go to we have a dining hall called Crossroads, or like take them to Boba. Boba's really popular here. Like, if you want to do those things, then you can do that. Just make sure we're getting the stuff done while you're doing it, you know?
Mm.
Or if you want to have a program, one of our biggest programs was it was like chicken and they made the t-shirts, like heat press t-shirts. I've never seen that before. I've never had a program like that before, but it was really fun, and like it was a lot of engagement, especially at the beginning of the year. Like I heard that a lot of friends were made during that session, and like I feel like it's not something that you could, at least I haven't seen it yet. You can look up online and like find it's like creative, and I feel like those things aren't mutually exclusive with that. I think if you bake it into the work culture early on, and that you got to be held accountable. You're going to be held, not got to, you're going to be held accountable. These are the expectations that I have of you here, and what are your expectations of me? And also, like, here's an expectation is that, this job can be fun, and fun looks like how it's different for everyone. So fun looks like what you want fun to look like. If you bake that into the culture early, I feel like it's really good and it's really helpful.
You keep saying bake, and I'm like, I need a pie. Okay, but I love this idea of, you talk, but how do you make it a part of the fabric or bake it into the culture? I like that imagery. So I wonder if people are having fun at work, right? It's a part of the culture. It feels like there's a role in retention there. Like, what role do you think fun can play in retaining staff and possibly preventing burnout in residence life?
Yeah, I think, like I've said before, fun really brings out passion. And I feel like that leads to really good outcomes. For me on an anecdotal level, like there's been times where I've been like really burnt out. Like I'm just like, okay, like I need to recharge. But then there's like a project that is really fun to me, and like it doesn't even feel like I'm working. Like the time flies, and like I'm like, oh shoot, like I'm like doing like something. I'm doing something work related. It's 5 o'clock already. I need to go home. But this is so much fun. So I feel like having those moments really helped you again, like I said in the first question, like remember like your why, and like it makes the job more enjoyable because I'm sure that everyone's been in a, or hopefully not everyone, but there's been a lot of people who have been in like really cruddy work environments, and can remember like that's kind of helped with the burnout, but even or help contribute to the burnout. But even like empirically, right? Like we can see that there's a positive relationship between workplace fun and like retention and also like reducing burnout, right? I was reading an article actually by I might butcher her name, but it's Eva Tatsutsi, and it was talking about how like giving people the workplace autonomy that they crave, and like also encouraging informal social interactions that like really helps with retention and like giving the people like having a fun work environment, which also in turn can reduce burnout. And there was another article. This one was called "Work: The Role of Fun in the Workplace Health and Well-Being." Those will be linked for whoever's watching, but talked about that fun can be linked to some positive outcomes, such as employment attraction, so making your department look more attractive to people from the outside, higher commitment, favorable job attitudes, interpersonal trust, enhanced performance, and a lower turnover rate. And I feel like that just goes to show that these things are like important to contributing to a healthy work culture that people want to stay in. Because again, we're in a lot of cases we're first responders to some very heavy stuff. So if we're first responders and then every other aspect of our job is toxic or like very drab, then we're gonna be burnt out. So if we have those moments where we can like have fun with our coworkers, obviously it's not gonna be like that with every single coworker or like every single moment. But when we can have those moments, it really contributes to, and even the data shows this, it contributes to people wanting to stay longer.
I love that. One of my mottos, I say, at work, I want folks to feel joy more often than not. Right. And so that joy, I think, you know, can be fun, right? Like, how do you feel like this is a place I want to be more often than not? So I love that, DeVante. So you acknowledged earlier that fun looks different for everyone. And so I want to go a little bit deeper. Like, how do you ensure that fun is inclusive and doesn't unintentionally exclude or leave people out?
I try to think of everything I do as like a professional through the lens, or almost everything through the lens of universal design. I really love to try to think of ways that what are some of the ways that in this activity that I'm doing, what are some of the ways that people may not be able to enjoy like my vision of how the fun is, and like how can we eliminate those barriers? I often think about people on my staff who might be introverted and more on the shy side, and like think of ways that we can include them. One of my favorite team builders, I'm so happy that we get to talk about this actually, was that we did a we made music, and we split the team into different smaller teams, and we like said you can have anything be your instrument, but you have to make a song either about the world famous Riley Hall, shout out Riley, NAU, or just like anything related to like housing and res life. um, and with that, like we gave people the opportunity that like they had to perform the song at the end, but like if people were more on the shy side, maybe had stage fright, or anything like that, like they could just be songwriters or they could just be producers in a way. And like we gave them different roles that like allowed people to have different abilities so that they were still participating and partaking in this thing that we were doing, but also not being put in an uncomfortable situation that they aren't willing to be put in. So I think that that really helps create that like and make sure that like everyone is having fun in those situations. But most importantly, when I'm leading sessions, like whether it's in staff meetings or it's in presentations that I'm doing, I first let people know in advance what we're doing. Maybe like I'll try and keep some aspects of it as a surprise, but I like to do that so that that gives the ability to people to opt out if they want to, or come up with different solutions and come up with and have like a space where it's a flexible experience. I love feedback. Like that's one of my favorite things as like a professional to get. And like sometimes like working collaboratively with like the people that you're giving this thing to can have for one give more buy-in, right? Because you're like I was able to contribute to this thing, so now I'm gonna pay attention to see how this works out. But also like it gives people a say, and making sure that like they're comfortable in their space. And I think when people are more comfortable, like it gives them the opportunity to have more fun in that aspect. And like I said, fun looks differently for everyone. Like that should be up to them on how they experience that. Because what I might find fun, you might not find fun at all. I don't think you're a wrestling fan, but I love it, you know, and that. But that's the human experience, and I think that we should take that into the workplace too, and realize that like there's differences between us, but that's okay.
You know, I we will always connect over the 1990s Chicago Bulls. How about that? Yeah, that was such a great answer. I love that. So, if you now you might have folks who are like, nope, I don't want to have fun. Or, I don't want to sit in this meeting in color. Like, I don't understand the point. Like, why are we doing this? Um, I wonder, like, how do we challenge ourselves to just try it? I think that's a part of it too. Just try it, right? It does, like, how do I get a little bit uncomfortable? Never unsafe, right? That's a whole different thing. But like, how do I challenge myself to be a little uncomfortable? So, DeVante, if you were to issue a challenge to our listeners to bring more fun into work this week, what do you think it would be?
Mm, okay. I have two that come to mind. It's going to be, I have two that come to mind. Can you hear me
Yeah, speak up a little bit more.
good? I have two that comes to
Yes,
mind.
beautiful. Yes.
Perfect. I have two that come to mind right now. And it's like from both sides of the fence, as a supervisee and as a supervisor. Um, I talked for the supervisee part, I talked a lot about like bringing my own passions into work. So I challenge you this week to find a way to bring your passions into work. Think about the things that you love and try to see if you can bring that into the work that you do. I have been able to bring so many things that I love into my work. And not only do I think that that has made my experience more enjoyable, but it's allowed like my peers and my supervisors and my students and my employees to learn so much more about me. But it's also allowed them to have a space to do the same, I think, if they wanted to, or like tweak it and do it a different way, but still bring in things that they're passionate about. I've learned so many cool things about the students that I've worked with. And it gets me excited to see them be excited to share like their stuff in unique ways. So that as a supervisee, that's my challenge to them. And as a supervisor, I say to give your team some creative freedom. Or another wrestling analogy I will use is creative control. So some of the best wrestling ideas that have happened have been made by when the writers or the bookers is what they're called, and the wrestlers collaborated to kind of, for better or for worse, like collaborated on this idea, or like the wrestler went off like the feel of the crowd, or went off script during a match. And I believe that in student affairs, because like the diverse amount of people that we work with, like we should have that same mindset. So I would say that one thing that I've always had the privilege of doing is being able to do some of those creative projects that I did. I feel like I've always been in departments and work environments where like they've allowed me to do some really fun things, and like whether that's like make a video for the retreat in the style of a 1980s wrestling promo, or like being able to do the stuff at the panel and like bringing in intros. So I feel like giving your team that creative space is really helpful. And also in one of those articles, it talked a lot about autonomy, and it shows that the research showed that autonomy in the workplace is really crucial for mitigating burnout. So I feel like giving them creative freedom not only allows your team to have fun, but also allows you to have fun by watching them, hopefully watching them like grow and learn on their own, but also is shown to give people, um, you know, to give people less burnout, less stress, and have them stay. So those are my two challenges for everyone listening today.
Those are brilliant, and I really hope that folks take you up on those. Thank you. So we are coming to the end of our time. You've shared some great resources so far, but I do want to ask you the question. If folks wanted to learn more about this topic, or if there's any additional research or resources you want to share, like where do you think they should start? What do you recommend?
How I started was by going to the Northern Arizona Library, or the Northern Arizona NAU Library, and searching like a lot about fun at work and like job engagement and burnout. So I think if you have access to those things, you can. I actually think that the role of fun in the workplace and well-being was a free article, if I remember correctly, not associated with NAU. And like I said, that will be linked at the bottom, or linked in the show notes. But I am game to give, because I actually have videos of some of the escapades that I've been on with my presentations and stuff. So I am happy to share that as well, if folks are interested in that. And I'm also happy to be a sounding board to people. So if you look up my name on LinkedIn or anything like that, feel free to connect and shoot me a DM. I'm more than happy to always talk about this.
That is amazing. Thank you. So everyone, don't hop on a flight and come to NAU to go to our library. But it sounds like, just searching, right? Like putting in the fun in the workplace would be really cool. And I think all of the things that you've shared on this podcast have been really great. And it feels like this is a part of who you are. And so how do you make fun and joy and passion, a part of your being? And lean into your colleagues too, right? If you're like, I'm not a fun person, like everyone's fun, right? But are there folks on your team you can tap to help you ignite some of this passion and excitement in your particular workplace? This has been great, DeVante. I'm so proud of you. As a bear, a former bear to a current bear, I'm very excited for all the cool things you're doing at Berkeley and how you are sharing your wisdom and all the fun with the team and the staff there. So excellent work. This was delightful. Again, lots of great information, and I can't thank you enough for joining me today. I'm reading your lips. You're saying thank you for having me.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Sorry about that. But I was saying thank you for having me. I really appreciate being here, and hopefully making some people's workplaces more fun, and also as to sign off for myself, go Bears and go Jacks.
Yes. And thanks everyone for joining us on this episode of Res Ed Chat. If you have an idea of a topic or a person that you'll like us to have on the show, please let us know by reaching out to Roompact. Take care.